Guys in the NHL, they don't just, show their stick and stand around. Like, they find those little holes. If I have the puck and I'm looking, Crosby, or in my case, Datsyuk or Zetterberg, they're the center. So they're going to find those little holes where you can make little plays to them. They're strong protecting it, and they help you make plays. So the little skill in the NHL is it's super, super high end, and it's a different skill that you see at other levels. But it's funny because, the speed of the game is not that much different, but it's those little details that I think are just what makes guys in the NHL, so great.
All right, what's up, everybody? I'm here with my friend Danny DeKeyser. Danny is working with the NHL right now, played a career in the NHL. We went to school together at Western Michigan University. Go Broncos.
Go Broncos.
And you got a hockey school going on. You're working in the real estate business, Danny. What's going on right now in life?
Yeah, it's there's a lot going on. It's funny, like, played 10 seasons in the NHL, and then you think you're busy, and then you stop playing, and somehow I'm busier now than when I was playing. It doesn't make sense to me. But anyways, I got a little mixed bag of stuff. I like getting out on the ice and working with kids, so I kind of started a training program, and I do half a dozen camps throughout the year, one summer camp, and then some through the winter holidays and all that. And then I got in with the Red Wings Alumni Association. I'm the vice president. So myself and Drew Miller, he's the president, but we kind of spearheaded things and trying to just make the program that the best we can. We've got some good things in motion. We play about 15 alumni games per year. So, we get a Red Wings alum who live in the area still to come out and play, which is great. We got Mickey Redmond, Justin Advocator, myself, Drew Miller, a pretty big list of good players that come out and play, and those support charities. So anytime that we have one of those games, all the proceeds go to the charity that we're working towards that day, or the group that's playing against us. So that's always fun. And then, I got into a real estate gig a couple of years ago as well. So I enjoyed doing that, buying and selling, mostly residential, but some smaller commercial properties on the east side of Michigan and the Detroit area here where I'm living at now. So kind of a lot going on, but it's been a lot of fun. I always say, like, when you stop playing hockey, it's easy to fall into a lull. So it's important to kind of stay busy, and some guys struggle with not having the day-to-day schedule and the routine that everybody's used to when you're playing hockey, because your time is so consumed by games and practices and working out and all that stuff. So once you don't have it, I think it's important just to try to stay busy and keep on a schedule if you can.
People can see you on TV. I've seen you on TV. What's that gig like? You're working for the Red Wings, right? Are you doing color commentating, or what are you doing?
Yeah. So I do a little, technically it's through FanDuel Sports Network, but we're, I'm partnered with the Red Wings. So I do a little bit of color commentating, working alongside Ken Daniels there, who's been around forever calling games. So did a few games last year, and then I do a lot of the pre and post game and intermission reports during the game. I'm going to be doing that again this year, and that's a lot of fun because it just, as a former player, you just get to stay involved with the game. Obviously, it's in a different capacity, but you never really lose your mind for the game. You always kind of know the plays that are going on or what teams are trying to set up. It's one of those things that it's fun to do because I feel like it kind of comes naturally. And we've sat in those video rooms for so many years, watching clips. That came in handy now because I get to break down a lot of film, doing that stuff. It just kind of comes natural. You've done it for so long that it's a lot of fun to do, though.
I want to get into how we met, right? So we went to Western Michigan University together. We were freshmen, roommates in the dorms. WMU Broncos are the reigning, defending national champions of NCAA Division I hockey. And I wanted to ask you, as a father, we're both fathers, it's like the one time where you want someone else to be better, smarter, stronger, whatever. You want them to be better than you, right?
Yeah.
But then you see the Broncos go on this run, and it's like kind of like the same feeling. I don't know if you felt that, but I instantly became, like, as an alumni, like a big super fan. I had to watch every single game. I stayed in the loop. It was just like this, this brotherhood, this camaraderie. Can you walk me through how you felt going and watching? And did you go to St. Louis too? I want you to just tell me how, like, the feelings that ran through watching these boys win.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously it's awesome. They're national champions. It's one of those things where it's Western Michigan, so it's not a huge name school that a lot of people would expect to maybe win a national title. For the guys that went there, like me and you, we kind of knew what they had brewing over the last 10, 12 years, pretty much ever since we left school there. We had some good teams back in that 2010 to 14 range there, and a lot of good talent that came out of the program. and we could just never really find that next level to kind of push us over the top. But we had great teams and great players, but over the last, especially the last 4 or 5 years here since Pat Firstweiler's taken over, they've really taken that next step. He's done a great job recruiting. Obviously, the landscape has changed with NIL, and no longer to have to sit out a whole year to transfer, which that's all new to us, because when we played transferred, you sat out a year, you missed a whole year of hockey. So now players can kind of jump around, but to see what Western has done and how they've really stayed on top of that new landscape has been unbelievable. Yeah, I was down in St. Louis for the semifinals game against Denver, so the double OT game, and that was a nail biter. Western played so well that game; they outplayed them, and it's the third period. The game could have been 4 or 5-1, but it's 2-0, and everybody knows what happens when you don't put a team away. And Denver stuck around. Denver is such a good program. Obviously, anytime you get a chance to put them away, you try to do it. But they stuck around, put the game in OT. But luckily, our Broncos pulled it out, and just special to see them do that. Both of us being alums and having played at the program there, it's it tugs at your heartstrings a little bit, because it's like it was a long time coming, and the program just kept building and building each year, and for them to actually the culmination of winning the title like that, and really just kind of steamrolled through BU there in that final game. It was awesome to see. And I mean, couldn't be more proud to be a Bronco alum this year.
Love it, man. I want to get into just you and your mindset as you entered your freshman year at Western with me. You have me as your roommate. Well, we're there with Shane Birchback, Chase Ballacy, and the boys are coming to Western. You're a Michigan boy. Bershey's a Michigan boy. Chase and I are California kids. No idea what to expect. We found success right away, but I want to talk about you. So you came in there from Sioux City Musketeers in the USHL. We played against each other there.
Yep.
We played in the BCHL prior to that, but you came in and your mindset was just on point. I remember skating with you in the first skates, those 4-mans, which were pretty much baggers. Seeing Fursh and Blash, super pumped to see that, we had some good skating defense when he watched you, Witter, and Tenney skating. He was like, he literally looked at Blash. He's like, we're going to be all right. But walk me through kind of like your experience there. And was there a turning point when you were like, hey, like, I'm pretty good at this hockey thing, and there's an opportunity at the next level?
No doubt. I think going into Western was basically a kind of a turning point in my career. You mentioned we go in there at Western. The coach just got fired the year before. We got a new coach, a whole new staff. We've got a bunch of new freshmen. Not a ton, because I think it was just the 4 of us and all that, and trying to find our way. And we're all in a new spot there, and just kind of getting into the routine and all that of going to class and also playing hockey, because the last few years there was not much class involved in juniors. It was just hockey, and that was about it. So a whole new routine and all that. But I think for me, it was just coming in and getting some confidence and getting some elite training from Tim Herman there, our strength and conditioning coach at the time. And the way that he pushed everybody off the ice, I think was something that really helped me, because I thought I always had a mind for the game. It was just kind of getting my body prepped and the physicality end of things and getting stronger, and with skating and all that too. So that was the turning point going into Western. And once we started playing and started winning, I think everybody in that room goes into Western Michigan with a chip on their shoulder, because you might have been overlooked by a different program or whatnot at that time. Not so much anymore, because obviously they're at the top of the food chain now. But I think we were all there with a chip on our shoulder, and whenever we got a chance to play Ohio State or Michigan State or Notre Dame or whoever it was, we were bringing it. We were bringing it every night. That was our goal. We had a lot of guys who just wanted to prove their worth, and a lot of guys did that. So once you start playing and gaining confidence, and I think that first year, like October, November, Michigan State walks in and we sweep them. So after that, it's like, you know what, we can play with these guys. We've got guys in the room. We've got players on the ice who can do it, and the staff at the time, they were new. They were like, you know what, guys, if we stick to it and do what we do well, we're going to have a chance every single night. So you may not win every night, but you'll be in every game, and you'll give your team a chance time after time throughout the season. So I think it was gaining that confidence for us, and everybody kind of buying in and showing themselves that we could play with the big boys. And we certainly did that for all of my 3 years there. And we had a lot of great rivalries with a lot of those big schools as well. So it was a ton of fun.
Yeah, I don't know if there was a moment, Danny, but there was a maturity level that you experienced, and I'd love for you to talk about it. There was a point where I think we all knew that you were going to be an All-American and NHL player, but I don't know when the turning point was for you internally. If there was a sit-down conversation with your advisor, with your parents, or with someone, but when we were out there in college, maybe making some not so great decisions, you were doing the opposite. You were being disciplined. We were going to the bar. You were going to the grocery store. You were getting fruits, veggies. I don't know what you were getting, but we were going out and maybe having a little too much fun, and you were going to sleep and you were preparing for practice and taking care of your body. So can you kind of walk us through what you did, and if there was a time where you were like, this is my time? And you also did a great job of choosing when to have fun. Like, maybe the boys had a big sweep and you'd make an appearance hanging with the boys, which was important. But was there a time where you just drew the line, like, hey, discipline's going to set in? And then what did you do?
I still like to have a good time with all the boys. After those weekend sweeps, boom, wide open, go out and have some fun and all that. You only played Fridays and Saturdays, so it's like, you got a whole week to recover. If you lose a few hours of sleep on Saturday nights, not a big deal, right? So I just think the week leading up to the games, Tuesday through Thursday especially, just getting a lot of sleep, taking care of your body. I always enjoyed, even to this day, I enjoy cooking, going out to the grocery stores, just trying to eat as healthy as possible. That was my mindset at the time, really just trying to do everything possible to give myself the best chance to play as well that next weekend. And that's all I was doing. I was taking it weekend by weekend and trying to set myself up for success that way. Just kind of staying true to a few basic principles like eating well, getting a lot of sleep when you can, and making sure your mindset is in the right place going into those weekend games. And that's kind of what I did. And obviously having fun when there's time to have fun. So, it's college. There's always a lot of time to have fun. Just like you said, kind of picking your spots and making sure you're dialed in once those next weekend games roll in.
Yeah. So you had an incredible freshman year, and then going into the sophomore year, you were just really on the map. NHL teams are all looking at you. You were just solid defensively, right? It's like no one was getting around you, making good first passes. No one's beating you one-on-one. And it's just clear as day, after repeated games and plays and whatnot, the boys could count on you, and it was apparent that you were moving forward. What was it like getting approached by NHL teams? And I think you chose to stay your junior year when you could have signed. And so you played 3 years at Western. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. That's kind of how it went down.
So how do you turn down $500,000 or whatever rookie max was at the time and go say, I'm going back to Western?
It boiled down to like being around the boys, that was part of it for sure. But we had such a good class and good camaraderie with our teams for those first couple of years where I was like, I want to be a part of things here. For me, it was also like I had a little extra time to prepare my body and get a little bit stronger and prepare for the grind of a pro season. That was something that weighed into it, especially for sure, because I had a lot of interest at that time after my sophomore year. But my goal was like, if I leave school, I don't want to leave school and play in the minors for a lot of time when I could be also just preparing at school. If I'm leaving, I want to make sure that I'm really ready to rock and roll and try to play at the highest level. That's kind of what I did. My game was always based on defense in my mind when I walked into Western. And even in juniors, I watched you and some of the, the D-man on the point and the power play. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to be able to do that too well. So I better find a different way, So my thing was always trying to move the puck, jump up the ice at 5-on-5, and then just try to be an elite penalty killer because there's a lot of opportunity for ice time there, killing penalties and all that. And strong defensively, I always figure, hey, if you're strong defensively, especially as a defenseman, you're going to find ice time because the coaches can depend on you in your own end. And that's kind of first and foremost. Once I kind of got confidence playing that role, a lot of ice time at Western, a lot of penalty killing, a lot of minutes at the end of games and stuff like that, you start getting a lot of confidence. You're like, what, I can do this, and I can try to just keep getting better and better and seeing where things take me. But I think that was the biggest thing going into my sophomore year. Yeah, I had opportunities where I could have signed and maybe played in the NHL, but maybe spent half the year in the minors. So I was like, I'm going to stay one more year, but especially with the group of players that we had and the coaching staff. By that time, Andy Murray came in, and we all knew he had, 10 years in the NHL with the Kings and the Blues and all that. So I'm like, hey, we got a great coach. Blash was awesome for the year that he was there. And then we had Andy Murray come in. So another professional-based coach who had a lot of pro experience. I'm like, all right, this will be good having him here. Going into my junior year, my goal was, hey, let's have another rock-solid year and then leave on a high note after that. That's kind of how it went after that. So luckily, it worked out for me.
You were able to experience something that many kid hockey players dream of, in my opinion. you were able to play in the NHL for your hometown team, right? So growing up, I was born in Los Angeles, played there youth hockey. I always had dreams to play for the LA Kings. I loved the Red Wings growing up, believe that or not. Seriously, Datsuk, Zetterberg, even back to, Lidstrom, Shanahan, Iserman. So I grew up and I loved watching them play. But what was the feeling like to not only sign and play, but to spend a career in Detroit, where you're from, in the state that you're from, surrounded by your family? What was that experience like?
Well, that was great. That was kind of a hard decision at the time when I left school to figure out exactly which team I wanted to try and sign with. I had met with probably 15 teams or so after my junior year and had a lot of offers on the table. Basically, I was looking for the best chance to try to solidify an NHL job. Ultimately, when I went through the teams and I looked at the defense cores of each team, I looked at Detroit. And yeah, they were going to be on the top of my list because they were, my hometown team. And I went downtown to Joe Louis Arena and watched all kind of playoff games with McCarty in 98 and 02 and 08, all those cups, those 4 cups in 11 years or whatever it was. And I idolized those guys. So they were, always going to be one of the top teams at the top of my list. But as I went through the decors, I looked at Detroit. Nick Lidstrom just retired the year before. Brian Rafalski had just retired. They just traded away Brad Stewart back to San Jose, and there was room on the back end. Even when I met with Detroit, they were like, we have kind of an influx of some newer D back here. They had signed some veteran D. They were kind of just in this transition of where they were kind of going on the back end, and they had some younger defensemen who were kind of coming up who they had drafted. But at the end of the day, they were like, you know what, hey, there's opportunity back here on our back end. So if you come in and you play well, you're going to get every chance to solidify your spot and become an every night NHL defenseman. Obviously, at the end of the day, that's what won out. There was a couple other teams there right at the end. And ultimately, it was Detroit where I was like, you know what, I can't pass up this opportunity because if I do, I might kick myself later or whatever. There might not be another chance to play for my hometown team. You mentioned you growing up and being a huge LA Kings fan, being from California. And it's kind of funny because then we're at Western and we're watching the Kings win cups and all that.
As soon as I left,
late, all those long playoff runs that those guys had. But that's kind of how it was for me. I was like, you know what? Hey, I get the chance to 1, play in the NHL, 2, in front of all my friends and family, and 3, my hometown team. So I thought that was a pretty special opportunity. And I figured, you know what? At least if it didn't work out, hey, you know what? I played for the Wings and I got a chance. Luckily it did. It was similar to going into Western. It's like, you don't really know how good you can be until you get to that level and start playing. I kind of stuck with one thing that I knew was playing solid defensively, because that's when the coaches trust you most, when you're not going to give up chances in your own zone, and then building your game out from there. So transitioning the puck, moving up the ice, jumping in the play, trying to provide offense at 5-on-5 and all that. Everybody has their role, and that was my role, and that was going to be the best chance for me to try to have a long career. So I just kind of stuck with that and went down that path. And luckily, they were the only NHL team that I ever played for. So it's a blessing. Everything worked out for me there.
Can you talk about the difference between, the college level competition in hockey versus the NHL? And the reason I ask is I never played in the NHL. The highest I played was in the ECHL, but I was able to skate with like the LA Kings in the summers. Like Sidney Crosby was out there. BB runs those.
Oh, yeah.
Jonathan Quick was out there. Ryan Miller was in net. A bunch of superstars are out there training in California and Los Angeles. And I felt from my experience just training with them that a lot of the things were easier. Like with the puck, guys are open, can catch, you can't give them bad passes. But then there were some things harder for me, like the speed level, the way these guys can skate, they're power skaters, like their glide, they're gone. Can you talk about the gap and the difference between college to the NHL?
Yeah, I think in some aspects, it's actually easier to play with those guys, particularly when you have the puck and you're trying to make plays and produce offense. Like if you go D to me and I look up the ice and I try to find somebody who's open, well, guys in the NHL, they don't just, show their stick and stand around. Like they find those little holes. So like if I have the puck and I'm looking, Crosby, or in my case, Datsuk or Zetterberg, they're the center. So they're going to find those little holes where you can make little plays to them. Whereas, maybe in college, your centers are swinging and they're busting hard through the neutral zone, but they're not finding those little seam plays and those little areas where you can make skill plays. I think for me, part of it it wasn't really the speed was crazy different than in college to the NHL, because in college the game is really fast, but it's also a lot more jumbled at times. There's not as much puck possession. If you watch a college game nowadays, there's a lot of turnovers and transition in the neutral zone. Whereas, you say in the NHL, everybody tries to take care of the puck to the neutral zone because they say the puck is gold. And, once you lose it, the other team's not just giving it back to you. Everybody's a lot bigger and stronger in the NHL, and the skating, was stronger. But like the actual speed of the game, I didn't find it to be that much different. I just found that when the other team has the puck, or when your team has the puck, no one's turning it over very easily. Everyone's protecting it well. They're strong protecting it, and they help you make plays. So like I mentioned, if you're trying to make a play on the blue line on the power play, there's seam plays where guys put their sticks and get open. Or if you're making long stretch passes, like you said, it's hard to make a bad pass to a great player. If you throw it up there anywhere in their vicinity, a lot of guys, they use their skates, they reach out with one hand on their stick, corral it. The little skill in the NHL is it's super, super high end, and it's a different skill that you see at other levels. But it's funny because, the speed of the game is not that much different, but it's those little details that I think are just what makes guys in the NHL, so great.
Love it, man. I coach the WMU Stallions as an assistant coach. So you're looking at the age group of 18 to 23, 24. And then I also do youth skills coaching, and you run a hockey program. And I'm sure you talk to a lot of parents, and a lot of kids look up to you. What advice do you have for youth hockey players? And I would say especially parents who want their kids to go to the next level, and kids who aspire to play at the next level. I'm not talking obviously 4 and 5 because, those are very young, but at the older ages, what advice do you have for them to make it to succeed in hockey?
Well, yeah, that's a question that I get a lot. The biggest thing I tell them is that come to the rink every day with a smile on your face and a good attitude. And that's step one. And then go on the ice, have fun, work your bag off, do the best that you can do. And then, for the age group where the kids are hitting the gym and all that, it's like put the time in the gym, put the time in on the ice. Don't cut corners. We always grew up with guys who are like, you're running sprints and their foot comes 3 inches short from the line, and then they're going back the other way. All those little details that kind of add up eventually. And if you're doing the right things all the time, that's really the most that you can do. At the end of the day, didn't work out. At least he could tell himself that, hey, I tried this, I tried that, I did all these things right. If you're giving your all and giving 110%, you don't end up making it. Well, that's the way it goes. There's hundreds and thousands of awesome professional players who could be NHL level talent, but there's only so many spots. And at the end of the day, some guys get weeded out because they either can't kill a penalty, or they, whatever the reason is. The margin for error between players is so small across the world. But for kids growing up, I would just say do everything 110%. Try to live the game, because you know how it was in college. That's all we did. We lived the game. Yeah, we'd go to class and all that, but you're up at 6 a.m. in the summertime working out, and you're in the gym until 8 a.m. You go home, pack on a big breakfast and a bunch of protein, and you're probably going to be exhausted, so you take a nap. And a lot of those days we would go back to Reed Fieldhouse where they had the turf and all that, and do sprints and, go running on the turf at 1 p.m. So it's like, if you live it and you do everything the right way, and you have good nutrition, you good sleep and all that, you give yourself the best chance. I guess the other thing I would add too is like, you always need a break too, because when you're working that hard for something, it eventually adds up in your mind, and sometimes your mind sways and you're like, oh man, like I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, I want a day off here or there. In the summertime, if you need a day off here or there, take it, because the season is such a grind, and you do need that break. For kids who are in their early teenage years or whatever, go play other sports, go play baseball, because it's good for hand-eye coordination. I mean, when I played for the Wings, a few of those years that I played 80 or 82 games, I would be off the ice completely from mid-April, if we didn't make playoffs, basically through July, almost 3 months, because I just felt like I wanted a reset, and I don't need to be skating every day in May and June if you're not in the playoffs. So I think giving your body that break, let's be honest, there's some injury prevention that goes along with saying that too. So it's like, if you can give your hips and your groins a break from skating, do it. You don't need to be skating every day, 365 days a year. So, but at the end of the day, if you're going to the rink and you're having fun and you got a group of good buddies, just put it all out there year after year and do everything the right way and see what happens.
Obviously, you talk a lot of parents. Any advice for parents? I don't talk to a lot of parents about hockey, but I think it's important for them to hear from someone like you. I think they get caught up in like, where my kid plays, what spot he's in, who he's playing with. I've seen people get up and move their, to a whole new state just so their kid can play on the 10U team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Things like that. Do you think a lot of that matters, or do you think it's all about kind of just dominating where you're at and then opportunities come? Do you think it's very important for parents to intervene and, you know, have their lives revolve around their kids' hockey, or do you think it just come if you're doing the right things?
That's been like the hardest question, I think, the last, especially 5 to 10 years, is obviously parenting within the game has gotten to a different level too. And everybody wants their kid to make it. You know what I mean? You have kids, like you want them to be the best that they can be. I do think there are maybe some boundaries that you have to set at certain times, or you just have to look at the game a little different way. Not everybody's going to play Division 1 and get a scholarship. And then after that, not everybody's going to play pro and not everybody's going to play in the NHL. I think you got to make it enjoyable for your kid. You want to push them enough to where they have discipline and all that, because if they're doing something, do it the best of their abilities and try to push them to be the best that they can be. But you don't want to also overdo it where you got them at the gym and you got on the ice every day for the whole summer or whatnot. Let kids take a break. And throughout the season, I think you want to find the best spot and the best team for your kid. You don't always need to be on the top team in the league. A good benefit of being on a different team is that your kid gets to play against those other really good teams all the time, night after night. And so maybe they can compare themselves, much like, we did at Western when we were going into to Yost or Munn and playing Michigan State. We get to play against some of that higher end talent and those first round draft picks and all that. So I think for parents, try to set your kids up for success, get them on a good schedule and a good routine, make sure that they like the game. If you're pushing them to the point where they're liking to go to practice or they don't want to go to a game or whatever, then maybe it's too much and, scale things back a little bit. I think you got to try to find that comfort zone. It's going to be different for everybody. And you don't always need to be on the best team or travel to a different state to play, as long as you're getting enough good games and good competition in the area where you're at. I think for parents, my thing would just be try to find that happy medium with things.
Transitioning from hockey in the NHL to running businesses to joining real estate. One, why did you go into real estate? And two, do you feel like your experience in hockey or in just sports in general translates well to helping people in real estate?
When I got into real estate, it was like the first 6 or 8 months, I think, after I retired. I was looking at a bunch of different properties, flipping houses, doing whatever, because you get bored pretty quick when you're not on the ice. As a lot of guys know. So you got to try to find something to do to keep the brain occupied and keep pushing yourself to kind of be better every day. So for me, I was like, you know what, forget it. I'm just going to go out. I'm going to get my license, join a brokerage. And if I have a flip, I can save myself, a little bit of money on the deal, doing the sale myself. If I end up kind of going into the path of buying and selling, then that's cool too. So that's kind of where I'm at. I do some of my own investing, with having a license. And then I also buy and sell mostly residential homes. It's a competitive business. People are always out there networking and trying to find deals and trying to put the best offers together. It's one of those things where real estate, there's a lot of different avenues and a lot of different ways that you can kind of take it. At the end of the day, if like you want to be competitive with it, it can be competitive too. So that's one thing that I really like about it is that it's a competitive driven business for certain things. You got to be on top of your game to find the right deals and put those in place. So for me, it's been fun. I've really enjoyed doing it. And, it's something that I'll probably do for a long time.
Do you think athletes, like playing on a team, having those teamwork skills, kind of having those disciplines, do you think it translates well into sales?
I think so. There's a lot of former hockey players that I look at now that are retired and all that. It's funny to kind of see each path that guys take. But I do think the structure of being a competitive athlete for year after year is that, you're ingrained to like wake up and just go get it, whatever it is, go after it. If it's real estate sales or if it's flipping houses or whatever, you get up in the morning, maybe you do an hour gym or something like that. And then you get your body moving, have your coffee, and then boom, it's out the door and you're looking to be competitive. So that's what we've done for so long as athletes. You're so competitive for so many years where you never lose that. You always have that drive. It's something where motivation over the years that you get from playing hockey 100% goes over to the business side as well.
And last one, Danny, if someone close to you or anyone came up to you and, asked you what it's like to become a realtor, what your day-to-day looks like, or anything like that, what advice would you give them as they prepare to jump into real estate? Is there anything you learned over the past couple of years that could be super helpful for people interested?
I would say, you got to get out of your comfort zone for sure. That's probably the first thing. You got to be aggressive. Like if you're just sitting back and waiting for deals to come to you, it's never going to happen. So if you're putting yourself out there and meeting people and going to events and networking with people that you probably maybe would have never talked to before, that's the route you got to go, because basically that's the only way that you're going to find deals. I would say just be honest with it too. It's a business where there could be some dishonesty from people. So just go about it a good way. And that way people know that your mind is clear and you're doing things the right way. And just hit it hard every day. It's not an easy business to do well in, especially if you're a younger realtor fresh out of college or whatever. It's not a business that's easy to do right away. It takes years to find success. And that's the biggest thing I would say, is just wake up every day and just get ready for the grind.
Awesome, Danny. Well, this video is brought to you by the Premier Mortgage Team, powered by GVC Mortgage. And Danny, as a real estate agent, you are in the Detroit area. What areas do you serve? And what's your ideal client like? Is there a specific area or neighborhood that you're working in, or is there a specific range of cities or areas that you specialize in?
For the most part, I'll go anywhere in Michigan, but I like to try to focus around Detroit, so that kind of within that hour radius or so. And then lately I've been working a little bit more up north. So Traverse City area, Lake Charlevoix, Harbor Springs area as well. It's so beautiful up there, and especially this time of year, if you're up there looking at houses, that you're going to get some of that fall foliage soon and all that. So basically those are, I'd say, my two main areas is kind of the west side up north, and then this Detroit area within about an hour and a half.
Well, Danny D, thanks so much for joining me, man. I appreciate you, and good luck with your busy week, with all your jobs and with your family. You have a wonderful family and some beautiful kids, man, and you take care.
All right. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Thanks, Danny.
Yeah.
Bye.